dear, flies are out in force.
So what are we doing here today, James?
Well, I'm here with Stuart Raw today, and we're out in the beautiful Yorkshire Dales. We're on the Castle Bolton estate, which has an awful lot of history. And Stuart's got a really interesting story about how he farms cattle. And over there in the distance, where we're about to go, we've got some very special animals called white-pout cows. And they're farmed, as you can see, in a very natural, sustainable way. And going to be fascinating to hear from Stuart more about how he farms and how it benefits the landscape. So meat eating particularly is becoming a conversation that people are having and that we're seeing a lot more about in the news on a daily basis. And I really want to understand, as someone who loves meat and always has done, what am I buying? You know, what am I actually eating? How is it produced? How is it farmed? Is there a difference between imported beef from other parts of the world and what we grow here? And that's what I'm looking to understand, is really just, you know, what is it that makes the product what it is?
So they have the wide horns and the black points. So the key points are the ears, the tips of the horns, the nose and the feet all have the black points. They're a strong beast with a big shoulder and a wide back. Apparently the sirloin steak was first off these beasts. Sirloin, sir's loin. That's where the sirloin steak came from.
Off this breed?
Yeah.
Wow, so these are the origin of a sirloin?
Yeah. Yes. We've tried to find a niche market to focus on rather than just being one of everybody else. A great deal of that comes from my passion for the countryside, the environment, the wildlife. Definitely focusing on a different quality of animal, a different quality of product, and to try to get people to see that farming's not bad, eating red meat's not bad, having cows is not bad.
Yeah.
It is where they're farmed and how they're farmed.
It's what would happen with this land if it wasn't used for, you know, for rearing animals and grazing.
If there is no stock on these hills and in this environment, there'll be no landscape. It would be just a wilderness of weeds and overgrown vegetation. We are converting what is a byproduct, as in grass, which we can't eat. We are converting that into a fantastic protein which can feed the nation.
Because it's that open pasture land, isn't it? Which is what a lot of animals rely on, don't they? And birds like lapwings, hedgehogs, I mean, they rely on this landscape, don't they?
Everything needs to be kind of managed in some way, shape or form for the environment, for the wading birds, for everything that's there. If you were to take the farming stock off this ground here, this would just all grow high vegetation weeds. If you don't have the stock, you're not going to manage the landscape to be able to provide for the wildlife.
And ultimately, we're grazing these animals to eat, aren't we? You know, we're going to put them to slaughter and you know, have a very good product out of them. But I think some people may perceive that as a negative thing. But when you look at it in the context of actually what else is being done on this land and the management and the overall picture, surely it's got to be a positive thing for the landscape.
Yes, obviously I could understand some people's point of view saying, why are you caring for something that you are in the end going to have killed? It is the whole cycle. We are giving life to an animal to enhance the environment, which then in the end is going to feed us with a healthy protein that you cannot get anywhere else. How are we going to feed the country on pulses and grains and that type of thing? This is the cheapest protein that anybody can get, and the healthiest protein that anybody can get.
And if we did stop eating meat, then could we actually grow enough plant-based food in the UK?
No. The only way that I believe that you could grow the plant-based food or the fake proteins is to grow them intensively. We would have to have vast hectares covered in greenhouse type systems to be able to generate the ability to feed people.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden people said, right, nobody has to eat red meat again, all these cows, they'd get killed. They'd get killed and go to waste. What's the point in that? What is the point in throwing away something that is so valuable, not just to us to eat, but for the environment? It's why we need to farm animals. We need to farm them. We need to rear them, and we need to eat them, but in a sustainable, sensible way. But in some of the countries, they are specifically growing crops to feed cattle. So those crops could be used to feed people. This is where we need to separate ourselves off and promote grass-fed beef. Because if you're promoting grass-fed beef, we're not taking anything away from the general public. We are growing a product from forage, which is something that we cannot eat, to make protein, healthy protein for people to eat. I'm not saying people should just eat beef, just eat lamb, poultry, whatever, but I do believe that everybody needs it. We are going to end up where everybody's going to be taking supplements and pills to balance up their diet and their health, because they cannot get all the goodness that they need from a grain-based diet, from a vegan-based diet, a vegetarian-based diet. They cannot do it. It is not possible to feed the world. It's not even possible to feed our country. If you're going to go down that route, you are going to be importing far more into this country. You've got ships, you've got planes coming in. They are going to cause more damage to the air than these cows.
Yeah. And I think it's really good that people are increasingly focused on food sustainability and very conscious of the eat. And I am, and I think everybody's moving in that direction. But for me, it's really understanding the nuances of the production system, as opposed to just taking one statistic that perhaps somebody might see on the news or in the newspaper and kind of assuming that that's the case in everywhere. And I think from talking to you, that's definitely not the case.
We don't seem to be able to get the stories across to show that sustainable, extensive agriculture is far, far better than importing unsustainable produce from foreign countries.
Think whether or not somebody chooses to follow a plant-based diet, a vegetarian diet, or a meat-based diet, surely it's about making an informed choice about which way you want to go once you understand the facts behind everything. Nobody
should be told what to do. Nobody should be misguided.
No, completely agree.
And if somebody wants to go down that road, that's totally fine. But they shouldn't force their opinions or force their beliefs, which possibly aren't even true, onto the rest of the public. People should be given all the options and all the facts of every single type of thing, and then make their own choice. Not be channeled down a route by media or certain experts.
I'm a proud Yorkshireman, and I believe that we grow some of the best food in the country here in Yorkshire, and I'm really interested in just finding the stories about different Yorkshire producers, and I'm interested in the people who care about what they produce. It's the smaller, the artisans, the craft producers, and we've got a wealth of those right here in Yorkshire. It's such a beautiful landscape, as you can see, lends itself so well to producing all sorts of food. And just in Wensleydale here, for example, where we are today, we've got Masson, where we've got two breweries. We've got Wensleydale cheese, we've got the incredible beef that's produced in the region, delicious lamb. So I'm looking to produce a series of films which really showcase what's great about Yorkshire food, and really educate and try and help people understand what makes the food that goes onto their plate what it is. And for me, it's all about understanding where your food's come from, is it sustainable, how's it being farmed, and just presenting the facts. these are really famous breed, aren't they, Dexter cows?
Dexter.
They're quite small, aren't they? Which
Yeah, Dexter started as in Ireland, so they aren't actually native to England themselves, but they were bred from cattle imported into Ireland. These were a very, very rare species, just like the white parks.
Mm-hmm.
But lots of smallholders started to keep them and started to build up the herd, and they are now a heritage breed which isn't no longer at risk. The Dexter beef has a certain taste. It has a slightly more, I wouldn't say gamey, but a slightly stronger taste to it. But they still need time to mature properly. Some people try to kill them like 18, 24 months old. We still like to get them to at least 30 months old, preferably older. It just adds that extra flavour to them, that extra marbling intramuscular fat. What is a very, very good product can benefit from that extra
little bit of
6
extra
months.
finishing, yeah. So it's that little attention to detail that makes a difference. I mean, to get a really good product on somebody's play is more than just what you're doing here, isn't it? It's also then presumably there's quite a process involved in terms of where it then goes beyond that and how it's treated. I mean, we mentioned hanging. So I mean, well hung beef. My understanding is the more it's hung and the longer it's hung for, and the way it's treated then is what can really make the product even better at that point.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously the actual start product has to be good. Nobody can turn a bad animal into prime
a good steak.
Prime good
Yeah.
steak. Fundamentally, you have to start that kind of process from birth all the way through. And then, yes, I mean, we try to send it to the abattoir in the best state we can. Abattoir has to take care of it whilst it has been slaughtered, so it's not going to get stressed, because a stressed beast won't slaughter right.
Yeah.
So then you're obviously to hang it, you have to have it hung correctly. There is still that 14 days, 21 days, which is absolutely fine. But the extra hanging can add extra flavour, and especially if you're taking them to maybe 36 to 48 months old, the tenderisation from it being able to hang.
I mean, I imagine a farmer's work is never done, but what does a typical day look like, Stuart, then?
I don't have a typical day because things can go wrong. Generally go around, check the stock to make sure they're all okay. Then there's the general maintenance, day-to-day maintenance. Winter time there's a bit more feeding, springtime's lambing time and calving. Summer there's the haylage and hay time to do. Autumn work, there's all the sheep sales, but basically every day is a different day. There's the routine jobs, but there's always work to do. Always work to do.
6 days a week?
7 days.
7 days a week?
We aren't part-timers.
So the work is really never done?
It is never done, never done. There's always work to do. There's always work to do.
My personal opinion on meat eating is that I'm a meat eater, always have been, and I believe that there's a growing number of people who are questioning whether they should be eating meat at all. But there's also a growing number of people who perhaps want to continue eating meat, but are concerned about the environmental impact of it, the sustainability of it, and animal welfare. And that's something that's important to me as a meat eater. I want to know where my meat comes from, how it's been farmed, whether it's sustainable, whether it's having a negative impact on the environment. So for me, it's all about understanding the facts behind what you choose to do. And I think once you've got those facts and you've got that education, then you can make an informed choice about what you decide to do. So for me, if somebody decides to cut meat out of their diet, move to a plant-based diet, that's absolutely fine, and a lot of people are choosing to do that. But for me, the conversation isn't as simple as plant-based food is good and meat is bad. And I think there's a nuance to the argument and to the conversation that we need to understand before we can make an informed decision about what we choose to eat individually. I don't think meat will entirely disappear off our menus. I don't think it would be a good thing if it did. 65% of the land in the UK is grazing land. grassland, which we can't eat because we can't eat grass, but what we can do is turn that grass into an edible food source. And if we can do that in a way which is sustainable for the environment and is done in a carefully managed way, then I believe that that's the future of meat eating. I think we need to go away from industrially farmed beef production and lamb production and poultry production. I don't think that's a good thing for the environment or for the animals, or ultimately for us. I don't think it produces a quality product, whereas what I do think is that we do have conditions in the UK, such as here in the Yorkshire Dales, where it could not be better suited to producing that quality of product, which is kind to the animals. So the welfare issue, is a completely different conversation to that which takes place in an intensively farmed setting. So I think it just is understanding the general context of what you're buying. So if you've enjoyed this film and you'd like to come with me on a journey to discover more about food in Yorkshire, then please like and subscribe. It'd be great to have you along.